Hello, and thank you for joining us on Gotham Sound TV. Today, I am joined again in the studio by Glenn Sanders from Zaxcom. Glenn, thank you so much for coming.
Nick, thank you. It's always great to be here.
So you've got something new and something very new for Zaxcom. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, thank you. It's something I think that is really, really special. I mean, there's not a lot of times I get to introduce something that I think will change how people work. I mean, I think this is pretty much as important as like the Diva was or digital recording wireless. We call it the VRX1.
Okay, and so this is it right here.
This is it right here, yes. VRX1 is a new type of IFB. It's very different than anything anyone's done. And I think that, you know, with this IFB, we've tried to address what I would almost consider to be a separate market than our traditional IFB products, which are the URX100, which operates on UHF, and the ERX, which operates on 2.4 gigs. Both of those products, you know, are higher end IFB that you would give to your sound crew or different higher end people in the production. What we tried to do with the VRX is basically really improve the experience for those people on the production that are using effectively Comtex and other lower end FM IFBs.
So the V in VRX, that's for VHF.
That is for VHF.
Got it.
Exactly. Where did that come from?
I don't know, no idea.
You know,
but it's clever, I gotta say that.
Yeah, someone had a good idea. It wasn't me, I'll tell you that.
So let's talk about then the VRX and what's different and why you'd want to use that. So I remember looking at an early prototype of this and you were working your butt off on the audio quality.
Exactly. The biggest complaint that we hear from people who are using FM analog traditional IFBs is that the audio quality is just poor. And we certainly want to make sure that whatever we do is a huge step forward in improving that audio quality. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the IFBs have traditionally not been made for our market. They're not for film TV production.
Right, they're for assistive listening.
Exactly. So the EQ is really kind of wonky compared to what you would want to have to experience what's really happening on set. So what we did is we came up with this new technology for reception that is very, very good in terms of audio quality and being able to reproduce the signal as good as you really can. The thing that we are doing to start is we're working with Comtech transmitters. So this receives FM analog audio and does a really great job at reproducing the audio quality as close to flat with low distortion as you can really get. So you're gonna be able to do a lot more with this in terms of real quality assurance on set versus I need to give something to someone just so that they can, hear what's happening and maybe feel that they're a little bit more important on set, which I know is a big thing. I probably shouldn't say that.
Well, no, I get it. So I did an A/B comparison before, and listening with kind of the standard FM receiver, it does sound, you can really tell that it's emphasizing the mid-range and the rest of the detail is kind of lost, where this does sound, more like if you were listening off the console. It's still being transmitted, it's still going through an FM transmitter, but the actual frequency response is what you would expect if you were, plugged directly in.
Well, that's right. It's going to give you, as flat and as true a reproduction as we can do with FM. I think if you had to even put this on a camera and record, audio to camera with this, it is what I would consider broadcast quality. You would be happy enough to air that.
Great. Okay. Well, that's the audio quality. So let's come back to the RF performance in a minute, but let's talk about the actual physical build for a minute. So tell us what the thought process behind this was. what it's made out of and all that stuff.
Basically, the case is a nylon-filled composite material. It is very rugged. It is going to stand up very well to being dropped. You could probably even run this one over with a car.
Okay.
I think it would survive quite nicely. If you try to flex it, you'll feel there's no flex to it. It is just very, very solid.
Very hard.
Yeah, and we have the cases made in America, and it's quite well sealed up, so it's going to resist water very, very well. The battery door is really quite solid. It's going to give you can even hear that little snap. It's magnetic, like most of our transmitters are. So we did the magnetic door. So really, build quality is great. And as far as the knob goes, I mean, literally, you could smash this knob on the table. You're not going to hurt anything.
Right. And this is a similar design to the ERX, right?
That's correct.
That rubberized knob.
Yeah, and with the knob, if you try to twist it past the end stop, there's sort of a clutch in here, so you can't break the knob. So literally, you're not going to have that kind of issue as you might with other IFBs. We did put a little protection around the power switch.
Yep.
So basically, you're not going to be bumping it off or on, which certainly not a lot of people do, but it can happen on older designs like our ERX. And on the side, you will see if you turn it sideways that there are charging contacts.
There it is, right there.
There you go. So basically, we have a drop-in charger for it that we'll talk about in a little bit as well.
And you can actually see it right there.
Yes, you can.
Now, there was a little preview here with the battery door. So it's 2 AA batteries.
2 AA batteries,
And
exactly.
so I see the IKEA brand in here. Are they sponsoring you, or what's the...
Yes, they are sponsoring us now.
Very good.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So what's the runtime on something like this? And
it is 13 hours. A maximum of 13 hours.
Okay.
Your performance will vary a little bit, but that's what we have right now.
And that's with lithium batteries, or that's with...
Oh no, that's nickel metal hydride.
Okay.
The idea is you buy a set of batteries, which will cost you $5 at IKEA for 2 batteries, and basically use that for a full season. And at the end of the season, you can keep using them or replace them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll actually go quite a bit longer on lithium. If you wanted to go, another 2-3 hours, you could actually use the, ever-ready lithiums.
So that's the build quality. And just to point out a couple of other things, obviously, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, USB-C for programming, and we'll get to all that later. And there's a couple of different buttons, the AB button and the star button is what
you can call it the star button.
Okay, I like the star button. It's got a ring to it.
We affectionately call it the Stark button at Zaxcom.
Very fun. Okay, because of Howie Stark for people that don't know.
Howie Stark, yes.
Not the Avenger, the Zaxcom.
He is our Avenger.
Very cool. All right, so let's talk about the RF in this. And a little bit about how that works and what makes it unique. So it's VHF, and VHF kind of naturally has a better range than UHF. It's generally not as hi-fi, so there's like a trade-off there. But talk to me about how your VHF receiver is different than your traditional.
Well, first of all, I think if you look at IFB, there's a real reason that Comtechs are out there all over the place, because they are VHF. And VHF, yes, it does have better range in that it goes through walls better, it goes through people better. That's all wonderful. But of course, when it comes to VHF, it's not competing with Spectrum on UHF. So that's really, really great. In terms of the technology, we decided that we would do something that was very, very challenging and really has not been done before in this kind of product. We did something called direct conversion. A typical receiver is based on something called superheterodyne. It's a very old way to do it. There's multiple conversions of the RF to intermediate frequencies. And direct conversion is just one step from the frequency you're receiving to what we call baseband. The reason that this is very, very good and advantageous is that without the intermediate frequencies, there's less to interfere with. Because if you hold a cell phone next to a traditional IFB receiver, you might hear, interference in the reception.
Yeah.
It can happen with a lot of other things. It can happen with walkies. It can happen with like focusing systems. They are just susceptible to off-frequency interference. This is not.
Okay.
Because it's just the one conversion. It's a very simple thing where you're not going to have interference unless something is on your frequency. There's something called image frequencies with these other receivers where not only can you receive on the frequency you're intending, but you have limited reception on what we call an image frequency, which is because of frequency conversion.
I see.
So without that, basically, it is just much more immune or totally immune to off-frequency interference. It's really advantageous.
So, so how do you actually control that?
Well, basically, there's two ways. You could do it through the GUI, which is the way we originally intended to control it. But it became obvious that we really needed to give people in the field a way to do it locally on the unit. So if you turn the unit on and press two buttons at once, it'll put it into a mode where you can control, basically all the important parameters. So I'll press a button so you can hear it change channel.
Channel 1.
Okay, and that's nice and loud.
Channel
I can hear
7.
that.
Yeah, so it is really quite good. If I put it in, let's see, I'm gonna.
Channel 7. Menu. Channel 1.
So now I'm in the menu mode and I can go through all the different things.
Enable. Delay.
Oh, got it.
Voting.
Okay.
Channel.
So that brings up some other things. So now, in terms of like what you can program, we heard delay in there, we heard voting in there, channel enable.
Right. Well, there's a lot of features in here that we haven't talked about.
Yep.
It's really, to put it quite simply, it's not your father's IFB. Okay. First of all, yes, it is a digital system. We've got a lot of ability to manipulate the audio, manipulate, the functionality. So it does have delay because, as we know, delay is not a one-stop thing. People look at action directly, they look at monitors, they need different delays.
Yeah.
So you're able to have up to 15 frames of delay in these packs. So that's a really nice feature so that you're not assaulted by the crew because one person wants it one way and one person wants it the other. Another very valuable feature is voting. With these, they are 10-channel units,
Yeah.
and you can set them up so that if you had, let's say, a show where you had maybe 5 sound bags, and those bags were each transmitting on different frequencies, as someone would walk around with that bag or walk with that bag, they're able to have these things automatically pick the bag that has the strongest signal. Now, we've had voting before,
Right.
but people with analog FM stuff just never had that ability. So we really wanted to put that in. So it does have voting.
That's really interesting because I know, I certainly have, most of my background is in reality television, and you just, for multiple bag use, you couldn't use Comtex in a bag for a bunch of reasons. But that was one of them, is that you could not switch easily, and having this automatically do it, that's pretty neat.
Exactly. Now, while it has 10-channel capability, you have the ability to, limit those channels. You also have the ability to program the buttons on the unit so that they do different things, and I'll show you that when we look at the GUI. But the buttons can do channel change, delay, or frankly be programmed so that they don't do anything. One thing that I think our customers are very, I don't want to say scared of, but they're thinking about, they're going to hand this off to someone and they're going to start pressing buttons, they're going to start, trying to do things, and they're going to screw it up.
Yep.
I mean, how many people, using older FM equipment have people bring the IFBs back and say, hey, I don't hear anything, and it's because they pressed a button that they weren't supposed to press.
Yep. Yep.
So with this, you can switch it on. There's no display. There's, if the buttons are inactive, the only thing they can do is switch it off and on and turn the volume knob,
Yeah.
which is, I think, for a lot of people, exactly what you want.
Right. Yeah. So it's not necessarily, it could be for power users, or it can be for, people that just need to hear.
Well, exactly right. Yeah, and that's a good point because the audio quality is so good. You might have it with, your audio team and, they are working with multiple carts or multiple bags or what have you, or you're just going to hand it, to one person on set, and all they need to do is listen to the audio coming out of the card or from a sound bag.
Got it. Well, so let's talk about, so we've talked about the voice prompts, we've got the assignable buttons. Let's take a look at what you can do with the GUI bridge, because that was the original intention.
Sure.
Only for the GUI bridge, right?
Okay, yes. First of all, let me describe that our GUI bridge is a little Linux computer that you buy from us.
So this is what the GUI bridge looks like. And so as you said, it's a Pi, isn't it? There's Raspberry Pi.
It actually is a Raspberry Pi, yes. So when it comes to the GUI bridge, we now have the control of several of our products. We have the RX8 transmitter control, which is the wireless transmitters, the URX receivers, and now the VRX receivers as well. So if I just touch the VRX receiver page, it'll open up the VRX page. And what you're going to see on the left side of the screen are the 10 frequencies. Now, when you get it, it's pre-programmed with the 10 frequencies that work with Comtech systems. So that makes it really easy to work with. You've got a switch on each channel where you can enable delay, you can enable voting, you can even enable or disable the channel. So right now these things have turned green to say that I made a change to them, and I can just do whatever I want to do for each one of the channels. Along the bottom, you'll see that there's two buttons called Read VRX and Write VRX, as well as a preset button. So if I plug a VRX into the interface, which I can do right now. So basically with power off, you just plug the VRX in. It'll say connected up on the top right side. And you'll see that there's a whole bunch of things that are in green because those are things that I've changed. So if I hit Write VRX, it'll send the commands to the VRX, and in a moment, they turn blue, meaning that they are now written and the VRX is programmed. So with this interface, if you have a VRX that has everything all set up for you, it's easy just to go and say, Read VRX, make whatever change you'd like to make, and at that point, basically write it back.
Okay.
So each VRX is sort of like a memory on its own, which is nice, or you can save it to the internal presets. The left side of the screen, as I pointed out, is simply controlling the delay, voting, and enable on each of the 10 channels. So if a channel is enabled, it'll come up when you select channels on the unit. If it's disabled, then it's just basically not going to be accessible to you. On the right side of the system, we have quite a few things. There's the voice prompt screen, where voice prompts can be off. They can be sent to the left headphone, right headphone, or both, center. So you get a little bit of a choice there. You can enter the delay in milliseconds. The button control, where the star button and the AB button can be programmed to off, change channel, change delay, or basically to announce what channel you're on and what the status of that channel might be. So we have that for both the star button and the AB button right there. We have the battery type so that you have accurate information regarding when your battery is dead, because different chemistries will do different things at different voltages.
And this will tell you, like, if you have the voice prompt enabled, it'll tell you when the battery's being dead.
If it's enabled, it'll say battery low. So you don't even have to look at it, and there's no beeps. It's just basically battery low.
Yeah.
Headphone mode, whether right now it's like mono, stereo, or balanced. There is no stereo at the moment, but there is balanced. So if you wanted to feed a camera,
you could
put it in balanced mode and feed a camera.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, it is definitely a neat thing. You can turn off the LED on the unit if you don't want that putting out any light. And you can turn the compander off and on, because not all IFBs have compander on all the time, so you can turn that off. And we also have a little EQ section. So you can have a normal EQ, or if you want to boost the high frequency or boost the low frequency, you get a little bit of a choice there. Of course, that depends upon the headphones that you're using, whether you think they need that or not. So That's what we have at the moment. Oh, there's one more thing. There's gain boost. So if you're basically listening to some things that are very low level, you might want to boost it up. That'll give you actually a 10 dB boost in the system so that those things are going to be louder for you. And also there's a little switch for boot announce, which means that when you boot the system up, is it going to talk to you and tell you, what channel you're on and what it's set for. So I think it's a really simple interface. We're probably going to be, adding some things to it as they come around. But, if you don't have this, it's okay. You can do all the basic stuff right on the unit without any GUI.
Got it. So you touched, there are some Easter eggs in there. Let's talk a little bit about those Easter eggs. So, this is a VHF receiver. This is the first VHF product that I'm aware of that Zaxcom has made. Is there anything in the future for Zaxcom and VHF?
Well, yeah, there is. Part of this technology that we've used is it is a software-defined radio. So the first thing we did is we programmed it so it would be compatible with FM transmitters because, for us, that's, I think, a huge market of people that are not very satisfied with the way their systems sound today. And the great part about doing what we did here is if you're out there and you've got 20, 30, 40, 50, receivers, you're able to simply add this into your system without changing out the transmitter and without being, ruining the compatibility to the other receivers that you already own. So then as you need to replace receivers because of damage or loss, you can simply add our receivers. At some point, we will have a digital transmitter that will work with these receivers. And we don't have a lot of information about that at the moment, so I would say stay tuned. But this is definitely the roadmap for this product to become a digital receiver with a Zaxcom digital transmitter.
Got it. And so that's, just to be very clear, so this is, because the digital transmitter doesn't exist yet, they're, these will work with them. They may require some update or modification in the future. Maybe. We don't know yet.
Well, yes, we would hope not, but certainly we're not promising that we wouldn't. But we have certainly, when you say doesn't exist, things exist at Zaxcom. They're just not out yet.
Okay.
So I think we have to leave this as a bit of a question mark. We can't talk about products that are under development, but certainly this receiver was designed to receive both FM analog and digital modulations in the same pack.
Oh, very cool. And so, and you also mentioned something about adaptive squelch. Is that?
Yes. Well, that's another big deal where, if you're turning off your IFB transmitter, when you do that, the receivers have a noise burst that come through them because there's no longer a carrier to keep those receivers quiet. And until those receivers can squelch or close their audio, people are going to hear a noise burst. I think that the interesting thing about this system, as opposed from pretty much every other IFB out there, is there's a DSP in this thing, and we can program it to do all kinds of different things. And the adaptive squelch is just one of those things that we've decided to put in because we've heard the complaints of people in the field with other systems, and we want to make sure that we overcome those problems.
Got it. Okay. So let's talk specs for a second here. So what is the receive frequency range that this VRX1 will come with?
Well, it comes pre-programmed with 10 channels. Those 10 channels are identical to the 10 channels of the Comtech transmitters. The range of this is actually 192 to 216 megahertz. That's TV channels 10, 11, 12, and 13, plus the 216 section. That's what this is programmed for, or that's what this hardware can do. Going forward, depending upon what people want us to do, we are open to manufacturing this thing pretty much at any frequency that they want. It doesn't even really have to be limited to the VHF section, but that's what it is at the moment. That's
Got
what
it.
this hardware is.
So there's potential for somebody that wants this, in a different frequency range to custom order something at a potentially different price.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it would definitely be a different price, but yeah, we have the ability to do these things in almost any frequency.
And the reason why somebody might want that is that because this is FM, if you have an FM transmitter, it's agnostic. It's just going to hear whatever's out there.
Well, yes. The thing to keep in mind is currently what we've done is optimize this for use with Comtech transmitters. Going forward, we can make it work with other manufacturers' systems as well. Everything's going to really depend upon what the customers ask for. If we have enough people asking for it to work with, this brand or that brand, then sure. I mean, we want to sell product and we want to make people happy.
So speaking of making people happy, introductory price is $495.
That is correct.
So that'll be for a limited time. Check the website for what the actual price is whenever you're watching this in the future. All right, well, any other closing thoughts that you want to sum up? I mean, I know we showed the charger, we showed the VRX, we showed the GUI bridge, we listened to the woman inside the box, and we talked about all the different features in terms of the build quality and the audio quality and the flexibility. Is there anything else that you want to add or that we missed?
Well, I think it's important to note that you don't need to have the drop-in charger.
Yep.
That you can just plug it right into a USB-C that can supply 500 milliamps or more.
Oh, so you can actually charge from the front port.
That's right.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you don't need the drop-in charger. The drop-in charger is simply going to save you, the hassle of, plugging in. Here we have the charger with the VRX in the charger. It actually drops in sideways, which is really nice because it's very low profile. You can actually put it in a 2-rack unit drawer and have a bunch of them in that drawer. So that was a very intentional thing that we did to keep it nice and on the down low, so to speak. The charger will handle 2 units, but again, 2 VRXs. But again, you don't have to have it. You can just plug it in. Or, of course, if you want to change batteries, you can just pop the batteries right out, put new ones in. While the batteries last 13 hours, this is not a rapid charger. So if you want to rapid charge your AA batteries in an hour or two, you'll need a separate charger. This charger is going to take about 12 hours to charge batteries if they're totally dead.
Got it.
Yeah, if they're half full, I mean, it'll be half that time.
Yeah.
So, the charger, I mean, I think the charger is a neat accessory, but definitely not a mandatory thing.
One thing that I think is kind of neat about the charger is that you actually can get access to the USB, so you can be programming it while it's charging.
Right, and actually programming it's something we should talk about because programming it is really simple. And when I say programming it, I'm not talking about the interface, I'm talking about software updates. Basically with this unit, all you have to do is plug a USB-C cable into it from your computer, hold down the 2 buttons as you plug it in, and then you can actually move the software to this because it looks like a thumb drive to the computer. So you just move the program onto it and you're done. It takes like 10 seconds to update it. Yeah, so software updates are really simple. I mean, USB-C has just been, a really nice way for us to go with this thing. And, as we progress, I think you can see with the GUI interface, we now have 4 different products that are controlled by the GUI interface. And that is definitely the direction we're going for, basically everything. We're not going to be having separate, Mac or PC applications. We're just going to be doing this kind of web browser-based interface going forward for everything.
Great.
And I think you can judge from this interface that I think we've actually gotten pretty good at it.
It's pretty slick. Yeah, and I like the color scheme too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I like having the dark background with the kind of neon colors.
It definitely has that kind of off the chart kind of look.
It's a little 80s and very cool. Maybe Tron. It's a little sleeker than Tron, but still. No offense, Tron. All right, well, Glenn, thank you so much for coming in, for coming all the way in this very frigid weather. It's the coldest day in years.
It was a journey.
Yeah, it was a journey, and you got stuck in New York traffic, so congratulations. Thank you for bringing the VRX1 and introducing it to us. And yeah, we look forward to having you come by anytime.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Good to be here.
All right, so thank you so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, comments, leave them below whatever platform you're watching. If you have ideas for content or just want to get in touch with us, email us at info@gothamsound.com. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram and X and around the town. And if you want to watch this video and more, please go to gothamsound.tv. Thank you so much.